Hi, this is Jim Wright, and in PostBuilder Lesson 6 we'll learn more about TCL. Our lesson plan today includes learning more about the Tcl command structure. We'll also use the expr command or expression command. We'll talk a little bit about variable names, and then finally we'll show you how to embed commands within other commands. As a starting point, this lesson builds on the previous lesson. We've created a postprocessor for a 3-axis mill using the FNUC 6M control. To execute a Tcl command properly, you need to understand the language structure for commands. And the typical command structure looks like what we have on the screen there. We start with a command, such as the set command, which we showed in the previous lesson, and then the command is followed by either a single argument or multiple arguments. Some commands take one argument, some commands take two, some commands take 3 or 4 or even 5. It depends on the command itself. The set command we looked at takes 2 specific arguments. The first argument is the variable that we will be defining. Now this variable, if not defined, will be defined by the set command. Unlike some other languages where you have to declare a variable before you can use it, in Tcl that's not necessary. You actually can declare a variable as you set it. So that's the first argument, the CO variable. The second argument in our case was the value of another variable called mom sys control out. Now between those two items, or those 3 items, between the set CO and between CO and the value of this new variable, we had spaces. So spaces are very important in Tcl. They're the delimiters. They tell Tcl that this is the end of one command and the beginning of the next command or the next argument. So make sure that you put spaces where necessary. Now because spaces are delimiters in Tcl, we have to be very careful sometimes. You'll notice that over here on mom sys control out, there are no spaces in the variable name. We've made it appear like there are spaces by putting underscores under the different words, but in fact spaces are not allowed in variable names. You may also notice that when we did the mom output literal, we had spaces, but we surrounded the entire phrase with double quotes. So anything inside those double quotes was treated as a literal string. Therefore, it ignored the spaces in between those double quotes. So how do you perform math in Tcl? Well, the expr command or expression command allows you to perform math functions in Tcl. This actually calls a proc or a procedure if you want to know the underlying logistics of it, but that's not really necessary for you to know. What you do need to understand is how the command structure is set up. So in this case we have expr is the command, followed by argument 1, that's just a literal value 7, then another argument, the plus sign, and then another argument 3. Now you and I know that this would equate to 10, but when we come to higher math functions, sometimes we're adding 2 values from 2 different variables together. We can also use this for other functions. For example, you could use the division, you could use multiplication, which is the asterisk, you could use the minus sign for subtraction. There are other functions that go along with expr that you can use also, such as absolute value, square root. Many different math functions are included in expr. You can find out more about the expr command on the website that we mentioned from the previous lesson. Sometimes we will perform math functions within the framework of another command. So when we do that, we have to tell Tcl that I want you to perform this calculation first and then perform the other command. So in this case, we have the expr command set within the framework of the setx command. So we're saying set this variable called x to this value. Well, what is this value? Well, we need to evaluate this value first. We need to evaluate this expression first. So expr space 7 space plus space 3. So we're setting the variable x to the value of 10. But this fact calculation is performed first. One more thing you need to understand about variables. Variables are case sensitive. So uppercase X is different than lowercase x when you're creating or using variables. Okay, let's go into PostBuilder and do a real-life example. So now my goal is to demonstrate the use of the expr command. So I'll add a new custom command, because eventually I will delete it. This one's just for demonstration. I'll put it at the start of the path, right after mom set sequence off. I don't really care what the name is, because as I mentioned, I will not be using this command. But to make it easier to delete, I will call this command demo expr. First, I will set the variable uppercase x to the value 7. Next, I will set the lowercase variable x to the value 3. Finally, I will set the variable y, using square brace to the left, expr, the value of uppercase x space plus the value of lowercase x, close that with a right square brace. Mom output literal. Uppercase x with the value of uppercase x, lowercase x with the value of lowercase x, and y with the value of y. Choose OK. Save the post. And test it. So you can see that the lowercase variable x is different than the uppercase variable x, and the expression command that was performed inside the set command yielded the value of 10. And because I put that at the beginning of each operation, you'll see that at the beginning of each operation. That wasn't a very practical application of the expr command. Let me show you an application that is more practical. In scenario 1, we will output the estimated machining time in hours and minutes at the end of the program. So first, take the custom command demo expression and push it to the trash can. Remember, this does not remove the custom command from PostBuilder. It only removes it from being used wherever it was placed. If I really want to delete it, I can go to Custom Command, search out the custom command on the list, and then choose Cut, and that will delete it from the list. Back to the Program tab. At the end of the program, I wish to output the estimated machining time. New Custom Command. Add the block right after the set sequences are off. The command name machining time. I need to retrieve the variable that PostBuilder has for tracking machining time. How do I find out what the variable name is? Utilities, browse MOM variables. Let's try searching for time. There's a variable called cutting time, which is the portion of the machine time that it is cutting. But I'm more interested in the total operation time, including non-cutting and tool changes. That means that I want the variable called MOM machine time. This is the total machining time. Copy. Paste. We'll start off simply by listing the total machining time. Test the post. The machining time is output in minutes and decimal points of a minute. Let's modify that so it's output using hours and minutes. Edit the existing custom command. First, we'll create two new variables, one for hours, one for minutes. Set hours will embed the expression command within this set command. The value of MOM machine time divided by 60. Then we'll set another variable called minutes, and this one gets a little bit tricky because now we're embedding a previous variable along with this new command. expr mom machine time minus 60 times the value of hours. So what this second command does is it takes the value of mom machine time and subtracts 60 times the number of hours that were available, so that you only get the remainder in minutes. Before we proceed here, understand that we haven't done any formatting, so we're likely to get decimal point output hours and decimal point output minutes. To avoid that, we need to use the format command. So for hours, we'll place another set of square braces so that we can format the output (2.0f) close the format over here. Same thing for the minutes. Now before we leave this, I have one more embedded command I want to embed, and that is on the mom machine time itself. I want to format it so that I don't have decimal points of a minute before I do the divide by 60. Format mom machine time so that there are no decimal points of a minute before I do the original calculation. Let's see how that works. Estimated machining time 0 hours 3 minutes. Let's do a slightly longer program. Two hours 33 minutes. So to summarize, you learned additional information about the Tcl command structure. You learned more about the expr command or expression command. You also learned more about variable names and how to embed commands within other commands. Thanks for viewing. Our next lesson will be more about Tcl.